Most individuals do not survive their spiritual awakening, not because it is fatal, but because it uncovers something so raw, so genuine, and so untamed that the persona they have spent their entire lives constructing simply crumbles. They retreat, they numb, and they return to the dream. The real truth does not liberate you first, it disassembles you. It shatters the illusions you constructed and the masks you donned for so long that they became your very skin. This is the aspect seldom discussed: the screaming silence, the soul quake, and the psychic death that rattles your entire perception of reality. You are told that awakening is about light, but that is only a part of the narrative. The other part resides in shadow. Once you penetrate the veil, the world does not physically dissolve, but everything you believed about, it does. The aspirations you once pursued feel devoid of meaning. The individuals you once cherished seem distant. Even pleasures fail to bring satisfaction, leaving you enveloped in silence. A silence so profound it drowns out your sense of self. This is what is known as ego death, not a metaphor, but a genuine psychological demise of who you thought you were. Fight against it, and it may feel akin to madness. Yield to it, and it will still unravel you. Yet, within this unraveling, you get a glimpse of something eternal. Many people retreat at this point because the old self does not depart quietly. It clings, it screams, and it tells you that you are depressed, delusional, and lost. Perhaps you are, but only because the roadmap you were provided was never intended to lead you to your soul. You learned how to fit in, but were never taught how to be authentic, how to delve inward. Thus, when you begin to descend, it feels like destruction. Yet this descent is truly an invitation. You will be urged to relinquish every label, mask, and false identity. You will lose people and parts of yourself you believed to be permanent, and you must allow them to go because dragging them into your new existence will only lead to deterioration. Awakening does not offer you a polished version of the old life. It incinerates the prior existence and observes what rises from the ashes. Many individuals choose to retreat, opting for applause over truth, comfort over courage, and the familiar cage over the wild unknown, which is frightening. The wilderness speaks a language the mind cannot grasp. It reveals your shadow, not to punish you, but to reintegrate you with the portion of yourself that learned to survive without love. To truly awaken, you must engage with your shadow, meeting it not with fear, but with compassion. This is no small feat, for the shadow does not communicate gently. It emerges in triggers, jealousy, addictions, and the areas where we sabotage the very things we desire. This misunderstanding breeds confusion. Awakening does not signify the end of suffering, but rather the commencement of facing it honestly, consciously, and courageously. This is why so few navigate through. Awakening demands everything from you: your grief, your silence, your rage. It asks you to die while still breathing, to lose your mind, to find your soul, and to affirm life even as everything you once knew disintegrates. The descent does not call for strength, it calls for surrender. This terrifies the ego, which thrives on control. Control over narrative, control over image, control over perception. Yet the soul does not concern itself with control. It came here to become, and becoming requires the process of unmaking. You must dismantle your armor, strip away your stories, and unravel everything you believed you were until something authentic emerges. This authentic self does not shout or demand. It merely waits. It waits for the noise to subside, for the masks to fall away, and for the mind to wear itself down. Then it whispers, not in words, but in a deep yearning, an aching hunger for something more, not more success, but more real, more whole. This ache is not dysfunction, it signals your readiness to leave behind the lie. However, most people hear the call and ignore it, silencing it through achievement, numbing it with routine, or distracting it with noise because answering it requires relinquishing everything built on unstable ground. Few realize how isolating this journey can be. The initial phase of awakening is not one of beauty, but of exile. Exile from the familiar and the socially acceptable version of yourself. During this exile, you may long to return, to crave numbness and comfort. Yet, something within you will not allow you to go back. For once you have encountered the truth, you cannot unsee it. Once you have felt your soul, returning to the surface is impossible. You then traverse sleepless nights and engage in relationships that feel hollow, even when nothing seems amiss. This is the cocoon, the void, the space between selves, where the old self has perished and the new has not yet been born. It is terrifying, yet it is also a sacred space because here is where the deepest work commences. You are taught to flee from pain, to remedy it, to bypass it with positivity. But awakening does not permit you to bypass. It compels you to confront the pain, to experience it, and to allow it to impart lessons that comfort never could. Slowly, the realization dawns that the pain was never your adversary. It was your gateway, the crack through which light could finally penetrate. You begin to soften, embracing compassion for the child who was never held, for the adult who equated achievement with meaning, and for the version of you that had to perform merely to be accepted. In this grace, something shifts. You cease the pursuit of perfection, relinquish the desire to be healed, and instead embrace honesty, the honesty of the chaos, the beauty and the paradox of being human. That truth becomes your foundation, not confidence nor certainty, but pure truth. You no longer feel the need to convince anyone of your identity. You do not need to belong where your soul does not fit. You come to understand that you are the safety you have been seeking. You have stopped running, and that right there is what most individuals fail to achieve. It is not due to weakness, but because they were never taught how to remain, to stay amidst discomfort, to linger long enough for the soul to voice its truth. But you are staying, and as a result, something authentic is coming into existence, not perfect, but rooted, unshakably alive. You begin to recognize that the majority of your life has been constructed on borrowed aspirations, dictated by fear, culture, and those who only knew how to survive. Survival enforces a shrinking, mandates wearing a mask, and fosters the exchange of your truth for approval. Yet you are no longer merely surviving, you are awakening. With awakening comes a sacred rage, a holy anger, directed at the lies, the roles you enacted, and the way you betrayed yourself for affection. This rage is not a regression, It is a resurrection, a remembrance that you were never meant to live in slumber. You begin to articulate your thoughts with clarity, to say no without guilt, to affirm yes without apology, and you cease to apologize for being whole. The world may struggle to comprehend this as you evolve into a frequency that it cannot predict. You no longer feel the need to vocalize your healing, nor to preach awakening. You embody it quietly and authentically. At times, this may manifest as weeping alone in your car. At others, it may involve letting go of those you thought would remain. Sometimes it entails mourning the life you built with love, recognizing that the version of you who created it no longer exists. This transition is the cost of becoming. You do not merely relinquish illusions, you forsake identities. What takes their place is neither clear nor immediate. It is a void, a sacred emptiness, where the old no longer fits and the new has yet to arrive. In that space, you listen. You release timelines and the need for answers. You allow life to shape you, to strip you, and to reveal what persists when everything else fades away. What remains is genuine, not your mask, not your image, but your breath, your presence, your essence. In that very space, you finally confront yourself, not the self you are striving to become, but the one who was always present, waiting beneath it all. You no longer chase purpose, you embody it in how you move, how you communicate, and how you love. This is the deeper awakening, the aspect no one can impart to you. It is not a moment of triumph at a mountaintop, but rather a rhythm, a return to who you were before the world instructed you to forget. When you live from that place, not merely visiting it, but making it your home, everything shifts. Life becomes quieter. You cease the need to explain yourself to those who never truly listened. You stop placing your trust in others' perceptions, ceasing to abandon yourself in order to feel safe. As a result, something unexpected occurs. You stop chasing love, realizing you are it. You are what you sought, not in others' gazes, nor in your future, but here. Now, within. You start to trust that what dissipates was never meant for you, and what remains will find you here. You no longer hurry. You do not plead with life to align itself. The unknown becomes your sanctuary. Now, you navigate your existence not by proving your worth to others, but by embodying proof to your own soul, the part that remembers the sacrifice it took to return home. At this point, you do not strive to awaken others, you simply remain awake. You remain authentic, present, and your presence transforms into a mirror, not one that flatters, but one that reflects honestly. Some will shatter in its presence, others will awaken. However, your responsibility is not to manage their reactions. Your role is to uphold the mirror. This is how awakening transforms into power, not through noise, but through presence, not through striving for superiority, but through embracing truth. You cease to ask, "Who should I be?" and instead softly affirm, "I already am." That acknowledgement is precisely why you survived. Not because you mastered awakening, but because you chose to stay. You stayed in the fire, remained when it broke you, and endured when it emptied you. In that act of staying, you were reborn, not as someone flawless, but as someone genuine.